Teaching English Radio India.
A radio series for teachers of English.
Brought to you by the British Council. Hello and welcome. I'm Bibash Dash with another program for teachers of English in India. Today and again next time, our topic is teaching pronunciation. We'll hear from many different teachers as they share their thoughts and take us through some useful pronunciation activities. Here are just some of those who are joining us in today's program.
Hi, I'm Neeta and I'm from Mangalore in Karnataka.
I'm Kalpana from Bangalore.
I'm Altaf from Raichur in Karnataka.
I am Deepak from Maharashtra.
I'm Mumtaz from Gadag in Karnataka.
I'm Mala from Rajkot in Gujarat.
What is pronunciation? Well, pronunciation is not just about individual sounds, but it is also about rhythm, intonation, and stress. When this teacher, Deepak, uses a chant for his students to repeat, he's giving them important practice in the rhythm of English.
Once I met a white duck with feathers on her back. I said, "Good morning, duck." She said, "Quack, quack, quack."
So, have you ever spoken to a duck? We'll be looking more at songs and rhymes in another program. But we start today by considering the kind of English we want our students to speak. After all, there are many different types and accents of English around the world. But here in India, we have our own. It is long established with many millions of speakers. Let's listen to Mumtaz, Altaf and Kalpana as they discuss this subject. What do you think?
American style, British style or Australian style. Whatever we speak, the more important is what message we are conveying. It should be in a simple way and in an understandable way.
There are a good number of Indian English speakers. When they speak, they sound good, they sound appropriate, but they don't sound artificial. When we blindly try to follow the foreign native speakers, we may sound artificial. Instead, we should try to follow the model of speaking the way an educated Indian speaks.
Indian English is good. We are clear, we are specific, and we know the pronunciation. So when we see television and listen to our English, I think that is very clear. We can understand better, and the local people can understand me too. I need not follow any foreign English like English, England or Americans or Australians.
So most teachers we spoke to want their students to speak like educated or, let's say, good speakers of Indian English. Do you agree with this? It can be useful for listening practice to hear English from America or Britain or Australia. But the model these teachers use for pronunciation is English as it is spoken in India. They say that it shouldn't be artificial and it needs to be clear and comprehensible. And this also means they want to avoid students having such a strong regional influence that it makes it difficult for other people to understand. Here again are Mumtaz and then Altaf.
It should be common, familiar to all. Like, for example, I have heard people pronouncing chair as char, using their regional effect there. So let's speak English, not in an American style, not in a regional style, but let's speak English in his own simple English style only.
Neither we should have the accent of the foreign native speakers, nor we should have the accent of the regional languages. Every state has got its own style of speaking. For example, a person from Karnataka may speak English, but he just sounds as if he is speaking Kannada. A person from Maharashtra, he sounds as if he is speaking Marathi. So this we need to avoid.
When our students are first beginning to learn English, we try to make sure they start with a good model, as new words and phrases are first introduced and practiced. We talk more about this in another program on vocabulary.
Once I get the word up on the board, we check for spelling. and then we check for pronunciation. And I do something called drilling, so we all know how to pronounce the word correctly.
This is Dina, and every time she introduces and writes up a new word or expression, she makes sure that her students hear it and say it several times.
Drilling means giving the students a chance to be able to listen to you, say the word correctly, and repeat it after you. So you might say the word once and get them all as a group to repeat it after you. Or you may say it 2 or 3 times and give them a chance to get the pronunciation of the word right.
The teacher's job is to model the sound of the word. My co-presenter Manisha explains.
I say that the teacher should model new words and new sentences. Modeling means saying the new words slowly and then isolating the sounds. So, for the word picture, you might want to say picture. So you isolate the sounds, then go back to a more normal speed, and then ask students to repeat individually and as a whole class.
This technique is called a choral drill. Neeta uses this to help her students' pronunciation of new words.
Choral drill is when there is probably a sentence or certain words which I will say, and the entire class needs to repeat after me. And once they keep pronouncing it again and again, I have seen results happening, so I just believe it does help.
You are listening to Teaching English Radio India, a radio series for teachers of English, brought to you by the British Council.
Today, and again in our next program, our topic is teaching pronunciation. We've heard how the teacher should model a new word or sentence and then ask her students to repeat. But some sounds are very difficult because they don't exist in the student's first language. One popular way for students to work on this is to practice what's often called minimal pairs. These are pairs of words that are identical in sound except for one difference. For example, vow and wow, or vet and wet. Using the blackboard or by making some cards for students to work with together, you can carry out a minimal pairs exercise with your students. Teacher Mala brought along a few students to demonstrate for us how she approaches this in the classroom.
I'm going to do a practice session on minimal pairs, 2 words which differ only in one sound. I put up words like sip, ship, sock, shock, seat, sheet. They differ only in one sound, sir and sure, which is a very common area of problem for my students.
The words Mala is comparing are sip and ship, sock and shock, seat and sheet, and saw and shore, a set of minimal pairs. As a first stage, she gets her class to repeat the pairs of words she has written up on the board.
You'll have to repeat these words. Sip, ship.
Sip, ship.
Sip, ship.
Now, sock, shock.
Sock, shock.
Sock, shock.
Seat, sheet.
Seat, sheet.
Seat, sheet.
Now what you'll have to do is, I'll say a word and you can mime it quickly. For example, if I say sip, you'll have to show as if you're sipping something out of a cup. If I say ship, you'll have to probably hold your hands together to show the shape of a ship and that it's moving in water. Is that all right? Okay. Are you ready? Sock. Yes. Shock.
As you can hear, there is room for some fun in this activity, as Mala explained later.
When I said shock, they pretended as if they had suffered from a shock, and they put up their hands in the air and they opened their mouth to show as if they were terrified of something. Yes.
In stage 1, the students simply repeat the minimal pairs: sock and shock, seat and sheet. And then in stage 2, they listen and mime the correct meaning to show which word was spoken. Was it sock or shock? This activity really helps them to try to hear the difference between the sounds s and sh.
Sheet. Srishti, you did it wrongly. Could you show it to your class how you did it? Sheet.
When Mala said sheet, like a sheet of paper, the student pointed to her chair. So she has heard seat. She's got it wrong.
Could you help her?
Sheet, it's like this.
A sheet of paper. Okay, not a seat. Sheet.
The word was sheet, and now the student mimes holding an invisible piece of paper. She's got it. In stage 3, the students work together in pairs. One chooses a word from a minimal pair and says it aloud. The other must respond to show that they have identified it. This helps both the speaker and the listener to make the difference.
Sip. Yes. Ship.
Can you say it again?
No. It's ship and sheet. Yes.
Sock. Yes. Sure. Yes. Sock. No, it's shock.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. The students switch around and practice on each other. Then, before moving on to another activity, the teacher will do a quick
Shall we
check.
do that again? Yes.
So that was a special demonstration class just for our program. You could try this with your own students. Your choice of minimal pairs will depend on what problems your students have. Mala concentrates on the ones that are tricky for her students.
For example, if you are a Tamil speaker from the southern part of India, we don't have two sounds like ver and were.
Let's imagine you are going to set up a quick minimal pair practice of the difference between the sounds were and ver. Which short words will you choose? You could prepare some cards with words like these: whale and veil, wet and vet, wow and vow. There are lots of books with exercises like this, but you can easily create some simple cards with your own words. Now it's time to recap on some of the points that teachers have mentioned in today's program. Pronunciation involves rhythm, intonation, and stress, as well as the sounds of English. It is useful listening practice to hear different accents of English, including foreign accents. But most teachers want their students to follow the model of a good speaker of Indian English. To help our students, we need to ensure that they hear and practice pronunciation of new language as we go along. When we introduce new words and expressions, we should model the sounds and then get students to repeat until they are confident. Drilling can help with this. To help distinguish between different sounds, particularly ones that are difficult because of our students' first language, we can introduce minimal pair activities. A minimal pair is two words with only one difference in sound, such as seat and sheet, or wet and vet. In a special demonstration, the teacher introduced some minimal pairs, got her students to first show they could hear the difference, and then they worked in pairs, speaking and listening. You can adapt it to help your students with any sounds that they find difficult. Next time, we'll look at more ways to help with pronunciation, including stress, intonation, and the rhythm of English. I hope you enjoyed today's program from the British Council and will join us again next time. Till then, from me, Biphash Dash, goodbye.